What's happening, all you Minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and today, join me for my overview of the Spawn Compendium Volume 3 from Image Comics. Let's get started. Alright, so let's go ahead and start talking about this particular compendium. We are all the way up to Compendium number 3. But before I go any further, I want to thank the folks at Organic Price Books for sending us a copy of this compendium. So thank you all so much. We have a cover here by the phenomenal Greg Capullo. The Spawn logo, Compendium 3. I believe that is Danny Mickey inking those particular pencils there. Image logo, Spawn Compendium 3. You can see a little bit of Spawn in the background there. And then the back of the book. The book retailing for $59.99. That's the exact same price all of these compendiums have cost, all the Spawn compendiums rather. An image back here from Greg Capullo, inks by Todd McFarlane. And then just a little blurb as to what is collected in here. So about halfway through with, well, I guess if we go all the way to 300, I assume the Todd father wants to go all the way to 300. It is a compendium, so if you've not seen my videos before on these compendiums, they are softcover there with the glued binding. And I had issues with my Volume 2. Volume 1 held really nicely. So over time, sometimes the old school way of doing compendiums, a crease would start forming the more and more you read it. But for these, I didn't read every single issue of this. I will admit to that. I read about half of the issues, the ones that I had not read. Because I had some of these collected in hardcover and in trade paperback before. So I will be talking about the stories here in a second, but there is no crease. So that's a really good sign, whereas Volume 2 did develop a crease in the middle. That's what I always worry about whenever you have big, thick books like this, whether it's manga or whether it's compendiums like this. Alright, let's crack this book open and talk about the stories in here without going into spoilers, although I have to mention something that happens. Well, maybe I'll go around it. That happens at the end of the last compendium. And then, of course, look at this phenomenal artwork. Now, one thing before we crack it open, though, is, I forgot to state this, I always try to talk about the sizes of these books. But in case you didn't see my first overview of Compendium 1 and 2, it is the size of a trade paperback. Of course, a lot thicker, right? You get a lot more issues in here. There are 50 issues collected in here. So we're talking about Spawn 101 to 150. Let's look at what this looks like on the inside. Here are your credits. Todd McFarlane there writing the stories with Brian Holguin, and Steve Niles actually supplying some of the writing in here with David Hine. I knew David Hine stepped in with issue number 150. Angel Medina supplying the majority of the artwork with Nat Jones and Philip Tan helping out with issue 150. And Danny Mickey, that's who I thought it was inking the interior artwork. Now, you won't see a credit for Todd McFarlane doing the inks because there are no covers like the first two compendiums. No covers collected. You are just jumping into the story. As a matter of fact, there are no credits within the issues. They just give you the entirety of the art and then the issue number in a corner somewhere. So here we have Al coming back from hell after a huge war. See, I knew I wasn't going to spoil it much. There was a big war in hell. He's a hellspawn. What do you expect? I'm not going to reveal what happened, but it is a huge status change for Al Simmons and for Hell, which we'll get to in a little bit. So here he's having a nice conversation, not really, with Granny Blake. You know, he's telling her all his secrets, pretty much. He's just coming out and letting her know all these things. And it's really interesting because he's visiting her, but as of like 100 plus issues, he doesn't really visit his own family, like his brother or his parents. He just comes pretty much all over to Wanda's side and remains there. Now, the interesting twist about this is that the whole time, Granny Blake has, believed that he's an angel, that somehow he made it back here from God's hand. Okay, well, let's just say that she gets all kinds of pissed off when he just reveals the truth of what he really is. And yeah, we meet this young lady here who is able to tell the future. Let's keep going a little bit because we do have some big story arcs in here. But like I said, this one is messed up. Most of the artwork's applied by Angel Medina. I would say 99% of the artwork here is Angel Medina. This is about a guy that just collects weird one-off things, and of course he buys this freaking lamp from this idiot that has a lot of Nazi memorabilia. And I remember this one from the hardcovers. Spawn gives him nightmares about what it's like in the concentration camps and what happened to that soldier. That is a really horrible story. The kids here with the pig mask, and one of them is an actual pig demon, or an incarnation of an old Spawn villain. Then we have this story here with the plane crash that reintroduces us to this character. I think he appears right here. Overkill's back, baby, but he's a little bit different, and somebody's hired Overkill to go after Spawn, Al Simmons here. And it's nice to see him wear the mask from time to time, because for about 40 plus issues, Spawn just took his mask off, didn't feel the need for it. But I've always loved the design of the mask. Then we jump onto this big story arc here, which features Max, who's Twitch's son. Sam and Twitch, the two detectives in this particular world. Well, he's getting involved with a girl, and just like most boys, to impress a girl, we do stupid-ass things. So what does he decide to do? He decides to join this cult of... This dude's a badass. This is Simon, who turns out to be a vampire, and this cult is a huge vampire cult. And the origin of this cult and their leader is very reminiscent of that of biblical stories that you can find out for yourself. So there's a huge war, not just between Spawn and these vampires, but the entire city, and it's all about trying to get Twitch's son back. And is Spawn able to get his son back? Well, you all know by now. I don't really like to spoil the big parts of the story, but you can find out for yourself. There is some kick-ass artwork. I will say, Angel Medina's art, though, it is freaking detailed like crazy. And of course, a lot of that is the finishes and inks by Danny Mickey. But sometimes, especially during fighting sequences towards the beginning of this, later on I think he becomes a little more comfortable and spacing out his frames. But it gets a little bit convoluted and it's a little hard to follow. So just be prepared for that. But it's still kick-ass artwork, right? And when it's panels like this, those are easy to follow. But during fighting sequences, that's really badass. It's a little harder to follow just because the characters are moving all over the place, frames are switching, and then you're also, something that he does is crossing the plane. And what that means is that when you have a figure on the left and a figure on the right, that is the way your brain is kind of wired to keep an eye on those figures. So whenever he switches to another frame, the characters switch sides, and your brain immediately doesn't follow, if that makes sense. Anyway, if you've not read The Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, again, this is another plug for that. But regardless, kick-ass artwork, he gets the job done, and I cannot believe he had a consecutive run without taking a break. This man is a machine. And I was always a big fan of his since the days of Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch. So as you can see, we have the Return of the Redeemer. We have a new character named Nyx who plays there's Gunfighter, Spawn. There's a big team up with the different Spawns. There's a character, like I was saying, named Nyx who plays a big important part towards the end of this particular book. And what her role is, you can find out for yourself. I've always loved this. This was awesome. This is the 125th issue. And I wish they had done a lot more of these pages, these golden age type of pages, but there's only 4 of them. So the clown is back. As a matter of fact, there's a whole clown posse that's back. And then we have, of course, Spawn returning back to hell. He loses his memory. He loses the fact that he is Al Simmons. As a matter of fact, this whole book is all about who exactly is Spawn. Is he less Spawn and more Al Simmons, or vice versa? Or is there even an Al Simmons left? I mean, we're doing a lot of like Alan Moore-ish type of stories in here. Swamp Thing. Yes, I just compared Spawn to Swamp Thing. I said it, and I stand by it. But I mean, that's kind of what I think of whenever I think of those type of stories. Here's the return back to hell. And, of course, by the end of this, there's more fighting between heaven and hell. And, of course, does Al Simmons get to restore his memories. Now, the big baddie in issue 150, I think, is a complete badass. I normally don't show the final issue. This isn't a huge spoiler because, hey, the fight continues. But I did want to show some of this Philip Tan artwork. In particular, the character designs for this guy right here. This guy is known as the Disciple, and he is Heaven's greatest warrior. So that's what he's known as. Now, the book has 1,136 pages. That's right, 1,136 pages, retailing for $59.99. As far as extras, zero, just the cover, or the cover without the text on it. That's exactly what you get in the back. And I talked about the binding, but just in case you missed it, it is glued binding, and it is a soft cover. So that's exactly what you're going to get. But probably the cheapest way to get these color comics in collected edition. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this compendium. Let me know in the comments down below if this is how you're picking Spawn up in collected edition, or you're hoping for those big deluxe books, or the Origins hardcover books. Let me know in the comments down below which way you're collecting them. If you've read these stories, what you thought about the stories collected in here. Smash that like button, subscribe. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.